the two studies I found on antioxidant use after workout, right? High dose antioxidant like vitamin C, vitamin E, et cetera, that supposedly blunts the hormetic response to exercise. But there was one study that shows that green tea polyphenols don't do that. So green tea would allow you to fight off the inflammatory effects of exercise without blunting, for example, satellite cell proliferation or building of new mitochondria or all of the things that you want to happen in response to a workout.
Green tea.
And the other one was, and this is a new thing. Like not a lot of people are talking about this now, but it's like hydrogen-rich compounds. Like they call it hydrogen-rich water. And there's these companies now, there's like 4 or 5 of them. They sell like these tablets that you can dissolve in water. And there's the Molecular Hydrogen Foundation. They do research on this hydrogen, and they don't have a financial affiliation with any of these companies. So I respect some of the research that they do, and they've found that it actually blunts or it allows for anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects to shut down like the inflammatory response to exercise without blunting the hormetic response. It would be like green tea and molecular hydrogen would be the two things that I know of that you could do post-workout to blunt that inflammatory response without actually blunting the hormetic response to exercise.
So it'll enhance without diminishing.
Right, exactly. Have your cake and eat it too.
One of the things that I think that's probably really good about cold immersion therapy also, I think there's a meditative aspect of getting into that incredible cold and just relaxing and calming, and I think it does something for your mind.
It does, and it's the nervous system, right? Like what I tell people is you have a strong, and I take my kids out there, right? And I've trained them since a very early age. They go out there, they jump in the cold pool, but they'll stand in front of the cold pool and calm their nervous system, calm their heart rate. I'll have them, like one of them visualizes a sea otter, right? And the other one does a polar bear. So they'll visualize these animals that are just like impervious to cold, right? And then they get in the water and they know there's no sharp intake of breath. There's no like people do when they take a cold shower a lot of the time. If you can get your body to that point, I think that it probably has it's a good indicator that you're building that nervous system resilience, right? Like if you can just get in cold and not freak out.
Right.
So that's what I think people who do cold should train themselves to be able to do.
I've heard that argument about the sauna as well, that it also builds like a mental toughness to be able to just sit in there and calm yourself and get used to the adverse.
Get to the point where you want to bang down the door and climb out. And that's what I like to get myself to in the sauna, because obviously you get a bigger expression of heat shock protein and more blood flow when you get really hot. But yeah, there's a mental effect too. Same thing with the water. I was talking about that book, the book Deep, and how I got into like free diving and spearfishing.
How deep are you
which
going?
I think you would love.
I would love.
As a bow hunter, dude. You would. I told you I'm gonna go hunt.
Well, Aubrey was telling me that's like hunting underwater.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Aubrey and I spearfished in Kona last year. He and Whitney and I went down there, and we were just using like the little 3-prong guns. It wasn't full on like 80 feet deep, big ass guns after tuna.
After tuna? Jesus Christ!
People go out there like deep. I've never done deep. Like I'm not good enough.
Not want to be underwater attached to a tuna.
Well, what you do is you have a reel, and the reel is attached to a float.
Right.
And so after you shoot and you spear a big fish like a tuna, it's not dragging you; it's dragging the float.
Oh, I see.
So all you have to do is wait for that float to pop back up wherever it's going to pop up, and that's how. But I haven't done that. But that's like on my bucket list. Big time. I'm going back to Kona.
Big tuna.
I'm going back to Kona in April, and that's going to be more shallow water spearfishing. And we're going to hunt for scrub cattle, sheep, goat. The pig there's amazing.
They have scrub cattle in
pig,
Kona?
Yeah, and the pig feed on like macadamia nuts and avocado. And
explain
mango.
to people what scrub cattle is.
I don't know what a scrub cattle is, but apparently it tastes amazing.
What scrub bulls are, they're essentially domestic cattle that have gone feral. So some time in the past, whether it's 10, 20 generations back, whatever it was, they busted through some fences and now they're wild. And in Australia, they hunt them, and they're very dangerous. Apparently, they are the most aggressive bulls.
Bring it on. I can't wait.
You got to be real careful. One of Adam Greentree's buddies got gored real bad, and he had to be medevaced out of there. He was in the northern country.
I'm just gonna play a shitload of techno hunt. I'll be ready. So the book, I read this book by James Nestor, and I had him on my podcast. I'm like, dude, I want to learn how to do this. I want to learn how to like compress the spleen and go under and learn how to hold my breath and get all these nervous system benefits.
How to compress the spleen? The spleen just gets compressed.
I want to learn how to get deep enough, because I couldn't, even as an Ironman triathlete, I couldn't go deeper than 15 feet without freaking out, because like my ears would get the pressure in them, and I could do the, what do you call it, the when you equalize, not the Frenzel technique, but it's the you know, when you go,
yeah,
I'm forgetting the name of it.
Pop your ears.
Yeah,
right.
the pop your ears technique that most people do when they get into the water. But there's another technique called the Frenzel technique, where you'll pull it's like, and if
So you're doing it
you
in-
see like your nose go. See how my nose goes out like that?
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, you can equalize at like 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet. So I said, who can I go learn from? He's like, you got to go see this cat down in Fort Lauderdale named Ted Hardy.
Of course, Florida. You got to go back to Florida. Everything. Dicks,
Absolutely.
Spleens.
Dick shots, do the stem cells, go learn how to do the spleen thing. So I go to, fortunately, my grandmother lives in Florida, so I have a place to stay when I go there. So there's that, at least. And I take this freediving course, and he gets me from holding my breath for about 1 minute and 45 seconds. He got me up to 4:45.
4 minutes and
breath
45
hold.
seconds.
Took me from 15 feet over 5 days down to 80 feet, where you're like, you actually, they put a rope in the water, and you go vertical, and you have like your, the big fins. Like you have the big fins, and you have the
How
mask.
long are those? I've seen those on people, but
they're like half as long as that flag. What's that like?
Wow.
Like 3 or 4 feet. But they're like these big carbon fins. And I said, dude, just tell me all the best things to buy. And I contacted the editor of Spearing.
they're carbon, so they're stiff.
They're carbon, they're stiff, and you just swim so fast in them. And I contacted the editor of Spearing magazine and asked him, what's the best gun to buy? What are the best fins? So I got outfitted with all this stuff, and then I went down there, learned how to hold my breath, learn how to equalize, and now when I spearfish, and I still, again, I haven't got to the point where I've gone, like I go after the grouper and the parrotfish, and like the little ones. I haven't gotten to the point now where I'm hunting the big fish.
Groupers
But
can
it's
get pretty
this,
fucking big.
Very similar to I know the very first time I went after them, I got 2 at once, 2 groupers at once, and apparently it wasn't grouper season, so they had me put them back. Yeah, it's not as big of a deal as like if you shoot an elk and have a tag. I mean, like, but yeah,
They have a grouper
I mean,
season?
not put them back. I didn't like take them down to their little grouper nest and
Well,
tuck
they're
them
dead,
away. But
so
they're
just
dead, so you
leave them
can't.
alone.
Yeah, you just
Can't
leave,
keep 'em?
Yeah, you just leave them.
That seems
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Well, I mean, if,
They just didn't want to get fined?
Yeah, they didn't want to get in trouble. Right.
Right.
So
Some will
anyways,
eat 'em.
though, spearfishing. Amazing. And this whole like free diving, we got on this topic from the float tanks, similar experience. Like you're just at peace under the water. You're not wearing all the scuba equipment, so fish swim up to you, and you can kind of like lay on the bottom of the water and shoot something as it comes. And I go with my kids, and they like sit on the shore with like buckets and knives, and they'll help brain the fish, and then we take it back, and you have like fish cook-offs, and it's amazing. Like, it's very similar feel to bow hunting, except it's like that peaceful setting in the water.
It's probably intensely physical too, right?
Well, it's a great workout because you're not only are you cold, so you're getting all the benefits of cold thermogenesis. Like the white adipose to brown fat conversion, and the shivering, and the calorie burning, and the angiogenesis and all the stuff you get from cold. But then you're freaking hunting, right? You're not sitting on the edge like with a fishing pole over a boat, which I find intensely boring. You're actually in there,
and you're doing it all while you're holding your breath.
Fish, doing it all while you're holding your breath. No scuba equipment, and people will do like I do breath hold walks. All right, well, I'll go on a walk, and every time I pass a telephone pole, I'll just like take a breath, and I'll hold my breath as long as possible when I pass the telephone pole, and then I'll breathe through my nose to recover, and then when I get to the next telephone pole, I'll hold my breath. I'm probably gonna die someday, like passed out next to a bus stop, like hit by a car, blue in the face. But yeah, spearfish, like you'd like it.
I'm sure I would.
I think you'd dig it.
Yeah, it seems like an interesting mental exercise too, because you have to keep your shit together while you're under the water and you want to take a breath.
You do, and people die. People do shallow water blackout, and this is what I learned. That's why this guy sent me down to Fort Lauderdale, because this guy, he teaches safety, right? You don't do like the Wim Hof breathing and blow off all the carbon dioxide so you can hold your breath longer, which is great for holding your breath longer. But carbon dioxide is your body's signal to take a breath.
Right.
So if you breathe off all your carbon dioxide, then you
can
have
pass
to have out. You get shallow water blackout.
Techniques.
So for example, you're floating on the water before you're going to take a dive down. So you're kind of like watching the water, you're watching the fish, and you might do like a 2-count breath in, 1, 2, 2-count hold, and then 10-count breath out, 2-count hold. And you're just like getting the heart rate down, you're getting the nervous system calm. You're not even supposed to do like a lot of caffeine, which jacks up the nervous system and causes you to not be able to hold your breath as long. Dairy makes the mucus more thick, and so you can't hold your breath as long if you do a lot of dairy. So you don't do a lot of dairy, you don't do a lot of caffeine, and then you just dive down. And I brought ketones down, because a lot of like Dominique D'Agostino has he's done research on like divers and reducing a lot of the effects of like reduced flow of oxygen to the brain that apparently these Navy SEAL divers get, and he does research on the use of ketosis and ketones. And one of the days that we were out there, I actually took ketones, and they increased my breath hold time just using like these exogenous ketones.
Really?
So apparently they have an effect as well. I don't know if it's because the brain is using more of the ketones and the glucose, but they increase breath hold time.
They came up with that for rebreathers, right? Like that's when they started getting people, Navy SEAL divers, when they're using rebreathers, apparently a certain percentage of them are susceptible to seizures.
Yeah, and they use two things, ketosis and CBD are two things that are used for like epilepsy and seizures.
Yeah. Ketosis supposedly has an amazing effect with kids. Kids that have seizures.
I did 12 months of like strict ketosis.
Really?
For a study, for a lab study in Florida. No, I'm just kidding.